I want to just touch on this. We'll probably take more time to do it. I imagine Michael will talk about it tomorrow, and I sort of wanted to dig into this at least a little bit. But I guess she wrote it. What was it? Yesterday?
It was either yesterday or the day before. I think it was yesterday.
Yep. Opinion piece in the New York Times. Meet the renegades of the intellectual dark web. An alliance of heretics is making an end run around the mainstream conversation. Should we be listening by Barry Weiss?
The mainstream conversation, like the New York Times opinion page?
Yeah. Right. Well, first off, dark web refers to a basically like a black market that takes place on the web, and it's usually reserved for people who are doing criminal things but it's hidden. It's hidden. You can't see it. You can't, in other words, you can't bump into it. If you aren't looking for the dark web, you'll never find it.
You need to follow a specific set of, instructions and, protocols to access it.
Matt and I are working on a Sam Harris Predator dark web
character. Wait a second, but here's the point. If you don't know how to get to the dark web, you will not find it.
She doesn't mean dark web, literally.
Or what does she mean?
It's that secret society that's
means,
everywhere.
The part of it that's racist.
Oh, is that what she... No, that's not what she's saying. She is talking about the intellectual dark web.
It's a metaphor.
Where there are fundamental... here are some things you'll hear when you sit down to dinner with the vanguard of the intellectual dark web.
She actually wrote vanguard?
Yes.
Jesus.
First of all, it's not dark if you're getting written up in the New York Times and you are all over the place and you're a best-selling author and you're on national television and you go on cable news.
Yeah, when was it dark? When Ben Shapiro's being called the cool kid's philosopher?
When he was at the Washington Post. Was he at the Washington Post originally? Where was he? These are all, it's absurd. He has a radio show.
Overexposed
He's a national radio show. There are fundamental, here are some things you'll hear. There are fundamental biological differences between men and women.
Wait, what? I thought everyone had a vagina.
Yeah, well, this is something that you gotta sit down with the vanguard of the dark web to find out.
This is definitely not stuff that I've
Free
heard anywhere.
speech is under siege.
I have definitely, the whole free speech is under siege thing is absolutely something I've never encountered.
Identity politics is a toxic ideology that is tearing American society apart. I mean, this is...
I was at Columbia when she was trying to get professors fired for criticizing Israel. You disingenuous... I'm going to stop there.
Lady. And we're in a dangerous place if these ideas are considered dark. So this is a wonderful trick.
Yes.
You say, I am... what I say is toxic. And how do we know? Because I've just said it. And I'll tell you something. We've got a real problem if this is the case that people are saying what I say is toxic. And I just said it. So we have a problem. I mean, this is basically it. You've created a straw man. And then you say, if this straw man is real, then we have a real problem. Never mind the fact that what we're talking about is ridiculous. She apparently was meeting with Sam Harris, a neuroscientist.
Yeah, that's what I think of when I hear the name Sam Harris.
Eric Weinstein, a mathematician and managing director of Thiel Capital.
Oh, what do you know?
Commentator and comedian Dave Rubin.
who I had a very funny trick that, yes, I will be elaborating on, probably at great length. Even Barry Weiss could still not make look intelligent.
That's funny. Here is Eddie Glaude, Professor Eddie Glaude, on Morning Joe the other day, talking to Barry Weiss about the problems with her piece and the people that she was talking about and describing as renegades, and like.
She responded with her utter and profound lack of care and self-awareness.
Wait, you think black people have a lower IQ? That's so renegade.
And
it's a very novel American conversation.
No one's ever said that before in American history.
Right. I mean, the idea that there's a there's a fundamental difference between a biological difference between men and women. That is heresy.
I think we should bring back leeching. I'm tired of being oppressed.
Where are the androgyny police when we need them? Let's listen to Eddie Glaude.
That we have to have, where we don't concede that you can say certain things.
I absolutely agree. That is why people, and the article goes into this, but that is why this group, as it becomes more prominent, needs to police its borders and needs to keep people like Stefan Molyneux, who is a racist, and of the alt-right, out of this. But I, again, this article is not primarily about race. It's primarily about a group of people that are trying to have a good faith conversation.
Barry, you should have seen the response. I responded to a tweet by Ben Shapiro about needing to see the cameras of what happened before the arrest in Starbucks. And I said, I quoted James Baldwin, one of the more frustrating things about being black in this country is having to prove to white people that what's happening to you is real all the time. And the response of those hundreds of thousands and millions of people who follow these folks was absolutely horrific.
I believe that.
Horrific.
I believe that, but the response I'm getting to this article, and I'm not comparing them, but the response I'm already getting to this from the left is, I'm shameful. I mean, it happens.
Look at this
on
conversation.
Both sides.
Yeah,
but this is fun.
So
you just
happens on both sides.
You just compared them. You literally, like, usually when you say I'm not comparing something, you should at least do some type of trick to make it not a direct comparison.
Right.
Other than just, I'm not comparing them compared.
Right. I'm not comparing them, and I'm not contrasting them. I'm just saying that they're very similar.
I'm not adding these
Oh, no,
numbers,
that's already way better.
The idea that they need to police their borders, well, I got news for you.
May I just say, she said...
Look, we pop up...
she said it was not primarily about race, but one of the things that she did mention was that, yes, one of the ideas that, of course, Sam Harris likes to explore with obviously no racial animus is just, resurrecting old discredited ideas about IQ and genetics.
Right.
It's not really primarily. She just sort of tossed one of the most toxic ideological fixations in American history just in there
to be clear,
as an example of how open these people are.
To be clear, when people criticize Sam Harris, it's not based upon his espousing meditation practices.
That's the best
That
part
is
of
not
it.
the part that people get upset about. It's when people criticize Dave Rubin, it's not because he's not funny as a comedian. Nobody cares.
I think we enjoy that one too.
No, there is a difference. There's a difference between criticizing how unfunny he is as a comedian because of his other work. If he was just an unfunny comedian, we wouldn't even know he exists, and we wouldn't be bothered.
And it wouldn't be good content.
But if somebody sent it to us, we may still enjoy how bad it was.
Yeah, but we wouldn't randomly. We
that's
see
true.
randomly unfunny people online all the time. Now, speaking of Stefan Molyneux, at least these guys do not give him a platform, or at least someone like Dave Rubin hasn't given him a platform for almost 6 to 8 months, I guess. And this is only part 2, Stefan Molyneux, on race and IQ. At least they're not talking about race and IQ. Oh, okay. Did you mock up that on Photoshop? Or is that actually a real 32-minute interview with Stefan Molyneux on race and IQ, and that's only part 2?
Nope, I took that screenshot before the show today.
Oh, well, there you go.
And it was fun. And yes, and as I say in the piece, Rubin gets the hits for things like Molyneux and Cernovich and Jones, and what's really,
well, he doesn't
Rubin,
does he get? I hope he gets the credit of being the sinew between the Sam Harris and the Molyneux. I mean, that's what they do, right?
Oh, that would be some actual analysis. Barry's was more like,
that's
this is my way of creating credibility for myself while I.
But this is the whole thing, right?
Yeah, it's the business model.
She doesn't have to touch. She can be at arm's length of Stefan Molyneux because Harris is at sort of half arm's length of Stefan Molyneux, and Dave Rubin, of course, hosted Stefan Molyneux.
He's at high fives arm's length away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the whole trick here, isn't it?
That's the whole trick.
That we all have our concentric circle that we're working on, and we just hand off the baton.
And there's beer track and wine track. Like, that's the same. You want your high-minded racism, have 3 hours with Harrison Murray. You want your low market, Molyneux and Rubin. Same message, same overlapping business interests.
It'd be interesting to see where funding comes from all these people, if it's in any way different from person to person.
Yeah. Someone had a good tweet about the New York Times running these kinds of stories, I think today. They said, some Nazi is going to shoot up the New York Times, and while it's going on, they're going to put out a piece called Meet the Well-Armed, Extremely Thorough White Nationalist Taking Our Offices by Storm.
The vanguard.
And Barry Weiss is going to be like, well, wrong. They would not have done this had there not been a very rude piece in the Nation about people trying to have an open exchange of ideas about Puerto Ricans.